Hi guys, Alex here and welcome back to another SSR Analysis video. Today we are having a look at the Dragon Ball X fusions, and by the end of this video I'll be able to tell you guys which one is the best. So let's start off with Chaoman, or as it says in the translation, Chaoman. His leader skill increases the HP and defense of physical types by 60%. His super attack does mass damage, but you take 20% of your maximum health as damage. And if you guys didn't know, this card is actually an attack all unit, which means that he can be a very useful card, especially if you don't have an attack all unit. His attack gives him 8 ki and his attack increases by 3000 only once when HP is 50% or below. And if we have a look at his links, he has Infighter, Courage, Telekinesis, Fused Fighter, and Master and Pupil. And before I give my overall opinion on the card, let's have a look at his stats. He has 8927 HP, 7253 attack, and 4757 defense. So in my opinion, the main purpose of this card is definitely for world tournaments. He is one of 4 cards that is capable of attacking every single unit on the field. But apart from that ability, I do feel like his card is slightly underwhelming. His passive skill only activates once, and to make it even worse, it has a HP restriction. And not to mention, his super attack has a massive drawback. It takes 20% of your HP, but despite this, he is definitely a good unit for the world tournament. So now let's move on to the fusion between Frieza and Cooler. His leader skill increases the HP and defense of STR types by 60%. His super attack causes supreme damage, and his passive skill gives him a 70% attack boost when performing a super attack. And if we have a look at his links, he has the Universe's Most Malevolent, Strongest Clan in Space, Thirst for Conquest, Fear and Faith, Fused Fighter, and Metamorphosis. And if we have a look at his stats, he has 8411 HP, 7700 attack, and 4455 defense. So in my opinion, this card is definitely made to deal a ton of damage. This is clearly suggested by his passive skill that gives him a 70% attack boost. He has a supreme damage super attack multiplier, and a fairly decent attack statistic. So now let's have a look at Pandel. This is obviously the fusion between Pan and Videl. Her leader skill increases the HP and defense of INT types by 60%. Her super attack causes supreme damage. Her passive skill gives a 25% attack boost to all allies. And if we have a look at link skills, she has Battle Diva, Infighter, GT, Fused Fighter, and the Saiyan lineage. And if we have a look at her stats, she has 8411 HP, 7563 attack, and 4627 defense. So this card is definitely going to give your allies a big attack boost thanks to her passive skill. And not to mention, she also has some pretty good links. She has Battlefield Diva, GT, Fused Fighter, and the Saiyan lineage, which all provide a good amount of ki. So overall, this card is definitely going to be a good supporting unit if you need an attack boost. And as stated before, she also has some pretty good links which will make it easier to put her into teams. So now if we move on to Janembuu, his leader skill increases the HP and defense of tech types by 60%. His super attack causes supreme damage and reduces defense. Also, when this card attacks a specific opponent, he reduces their attack by 30% thanks to his passive skill. And if we have a look at his links, he has Shocking Speed, Fused Fighter, Berserker, Infinite Regeneration, Brutal Beatdown, and Margin. So Janembuu actually has some pretty good links. His main ones are Shocking Speed and Fused Fighter. And because of these links, it's a lot easier to link him up with top tier units. So let's have a look at his stats. He has 9185 HP, 7632 attack, and 4154 defense. So overall, this card is fairly decent. It has very good link skills. He has a supreme damage super attack multiplier, and his passive skill is also very good for longer battles. So now let's move on to the fusion between Goku and Bardock. He increases the attack and defense of STR types by 50% when HP is 30% or above. His super attack causes supreme damage, and his passive skill gives him a 12% attack boost for every STR orb collected. Also, if we have a look at his link skills, he has Saiyan Warrior Race, Family Ties, Saiyan Pride, and Fused Fighter. Obviously, the main key links here are Fused Fighter and Family Ties, so this card is definitely capable of doing a ton of damage thanks to his passive skill. It's definitely easier for this card to fulfill its full potential when combined with Super Saiyan 3 GT Goku. But if we have a quick look at his stats, he has 8497 HP, 7804 attack, and 4283 defense. So overall, this card is fairly decent. He doesn't have too many key links, but if you need an STR that can nuke, he is definitely the card for you. So now let's move on to the fusion between Brat and Pan. Her leader skill increases the HP and defense of agility types by 60%. Her super attack causes supreme damage. Her passive skill provides free ki to all allies when HP is 50% or more. And if we take a look at her link skill, she has Battle Diva, GT, Fused Fighter, More Than Meets the Eye, the Saiyan lineage, and the Innocence. She also has 8000 7669 HP, 7494 attack, and 4584 defense. So in my opinion, this card is definitely up there as one of the best supporting units currently in the game, and not to mention she also has some pretty good key links such as Battle Diva, GT, Fused Fighter, and the Saiyan lineage. So not only does she provide free ki with her passive, but she provides even more ki thanks to her good link. So if we now move on to the fusion between Broly and Goku, his leader skill increases the attack and defense of tech types by 60%, he has a supreme damage super attack multiplier, and there is also a chance that he can stun. His passive skill gives him a 70% attack boost when HP is 30% or above, and if we have a look at his links, he has Super Saiyan, Saiyan Warrior Race, Fused Fighter, the Saiyan lineage, and Berserker. So this card is definitely going to be a very heavy hitter, especially in monotech teams. As mentioned before, he obviously has that supreme damage super attack multiplier, and not to mention he also does get a 70% attack boost from his passive. Granted, his passive skill does have a HP restriction, but when you have a double Gotenks lead, it's very hard to fall below that 30% requirement. And before I make my final point, if we have a look at his stats, he has 9358 HP, 7735 attack, and 3939 defense. And last but not least, he definitely has some fairly good key links. Fused Fighter and the Saiyan lineage give him a total of 3 ki, and thanks to the Super Saiyan, Saiyan Warrior Race, and Berserker links, he is capable of dealing even more damage. So I have now analysed the 7 Dragon Ball X fusion cards. Let's take a look at who comes in each spot. So let's go ahead and start off with the number 7 spot. In my opinion, the fusion between Frieza and Cooler isn't the best. It's definitely true that he is going to hit a lot harder than the majority of the other X fusions. However, despite being able to deal a ton of damage, he really doesn't provide anything else to your team. He does have the Fused Fighter link, but apart from that, he doesn't really share any other good links with top tier units. Coming in at the number 6 spot is Pandel. In my opinion, the best thing about her card is that she can increase the attack of all allies by 25%, and despite having some fairly decent links, she just really isn't better than the other units. She would definitely be higher up the list if there weren't other units with the exact same passive skill and better link skills. However, if you are lacking a card that provides an additional attack boost and has fairly decent link skills, then she is definitely a good card to use. So in the number 5 spot comes Chaoman, or Chaoman, whichever name you want to go by. But in my opinion, the reason why he comes in 5th place is because of his usefulness. He is one of the 4 attack all units in the game, which obviously makes him very unique. He does however have drawbacks. For example, if you have a look at his passive skill, he obviously has that HP restriction and the ability to only use it once. And not to mention, when he does his super attack, you lose a huge chunk of your health. And the only really good link that he has is Fused Fighter, which definitely makes it a bit harder to put him into certain teams outside of the World Tournament. So now in 4th place comes Janembuu. He is definitely a very useful card, especially in longer battles, and not to mention he also has some pretty good links such as Shocking Speed and Fused Fighter, which as I said before helps him link with other top tier units. However, despite having a really good passive skill for longer fights, this definitely does reduce his usefulness as he can only be fully optimized in certain scenarios. He would definitely be a much better unit if you reduce damage instead of reducing attack, but overall he is definitely a pretty good unit. This decision may be slightly controversial, but in my opinion I believe that the fusion between Bardock and Goku should come in 3rd place. It was definitely tough to choose between Janembuu and this card. Janembuu definitely wins in terms of links. However, the usefulness of his passive skill and his ability to reduce defense can only truly be optimized in certain scenarios. The same thing can definitely be said for this card. However, I do feel like this card is slightly better, just simply because you are always capable of dealing a reliable amount of damage with this card. His links may not be as good as Janembuu, but he can definitely do a ton of damage in almost any situation. So now in 2nd place comes the fusion between Goku and Broly. Not only can this card deal a ton of damage thanks to the supreme damage multiplier and his passive skill, but he also has a rare chance to stun. And not to mention he also has some very good link skills. For example, Fused Fighter and the Saiyan lineage can give him 3 ki, and the other links such as Super Saiyan, Saiyan Warrior Race and Berserker can increase his attack even further. In my opinion, this unit is definitely going to have a spot in many monotech teams thanks to his ability to hit hard, and let's not forget some of his links which allow him to link up with other top tier units such as Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. And that means that in the number 1 spot comes the fusion between Brat and Pan. I feel like everyone expected the fusion between Goku and Broly to actually win this. However, I definitely feel like this X fusion is the best out of the bunch. She has an incredible passive skill that provides free ki to all allies when HP is 50% or more. The HP restriction can definitely put some people off. However, as I've stated in many other videos, if you have a double Vegeta lead, it's definitely hard to fall below that restriction. And on top of having this incredible passive skill, she also has some very good links. For example, Battle Diva, GT, Fused Fighter and the Saiyan lineage provide a good amount of ki, and it also helps to link with other really good units. And if I'm not mistaken, this unit as well as the Turles are the only units that provide free ki to all types with their passive skill, which definitely makes this card even more unique. But that is the end of this SSR analysis video. As usual, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more Dragon Ball content. Don't forget to leave your suggestions down below. And also for this video, I want you guys to choose the order in which you believe the unit should be ranked. But that is the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you guys in the next one.